Hi, how are you today? Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Maureen Turnblar-Velo for another edition of Grammar Fundamentals. Grammar Fundamentals is all about talking about what might be common knowledge in English, but that's not necessarily common practice. If you don't know, welcome to the Prepare community, where we inspire people to transform their lives and empower people to transform their lives through English. And it's such a pleasure for me to be here today to talk with you about the future. Yes, the future tense in English. The first thing we're going to do is simplify the future tense. So many people have made the future tense much more difficult and therefore have complicated. They've just made it complicated for themselves to talk about the future. So, first of all, I want to say that the future is not so difficult. We do have lots of different ways to talk about the future in English, but the best way to think about it is levels of formality and also what's most comfortable for you. But think about it. This way I'll put it in Portuguese, yeah? Of course I could say, eu irei ao mercado amanhã. Ou eu vou ir, yeah? I always say eu vou ir, porque é mais fácil para mim. It's easier for me, yeah? And I think most Brazilians usually do too. But of course, eu irei is more formal. Same thing in English. Oftentimes you'll hear that we use will, I will go to the store versus I'm going to the store. One is further in the future, one's more sure. It does have something to do with proximity and with security, but to tell you the truth, what you really need to know is one is just more formal than the other. Also, it's up to you which you prefer to say. So today I'm going to go through, in the next couple episodes of this Grammar Fundamentals, we're going to go through the different ways you can talk about the future. But the important thing is for you to choose what works best for you, and don't worry about it so much because it doesn't really have all of those rules. They're not so important. What's important is to just think about the level of formality and what's easiest for you to say and for you to remember. That's always the most important thing. What works for you? Because you never get any points for sounding like a native. You get points when people understand you, when you feel comfortable and feel confident in what you're saying. So choose what works best for you, okay? Well, with no further ado, without blah, blah, blahing, let's get to it, okay? So, we're going to talk about, in this Grammar Fundamentals 10, I'll actually get into how we talk about the future, talking about will. Well, this is the most formal way to talk about the future in English. Maybe the easiest because we don't have to conjugate. Will is a modal verb, what we call a modal verb. So we just use the subject, will, and a verb, whatever verb, and there you go, you're talking about the future. For example, I will speak. You will learn. She will study. He will improve his English. We will figure it out. And they will celebrate. Yeah? So all we do is use that will and whatever verb you choose to use. It is more formal. So when you want to speak more formally about the future, use will. And also people often find it easier to use will. Less thinking involved, so use it if that's what you want to do. Now, we're going to do number 11, which is before we go on to another one. Now, I said often that time is money in English, and it's true. So it's important to say that when we talk about will, native speakers, we don't usually say, I will go to the store. I will study. I will speak. No. What do we usually do? We use the contraction. We cut it, we make it shorter. That's because time is money and it's easier for us, right? It doesn't mean that it's easier for you. If it's easier for you to use the contraction with will, awesome. If it's not, use will, no problem. But let me go through the contractions for you, okay? So if you want to talk about the future, using the contraction, you want to talk about what you're going to do tomorrow, what you will do, you can say, I'll study. I will, I'll, right? I'll. And then you will, you'll. Yeah? Is that easier or harder? I don't know. Yeah? But try it. You'll learn. Yeah? If that's easier for you, use it. She will, she'll. She'll. Yeah? That one might be a little tricky. She'll speak better. Easier for you? Good. If not, use she will. Yeah? He'll improve. He'll improve. That's the same word as the bottom of our foot, our heel. Yeah, it's just not the same word, the same pronunciation, right? Heel, the contraction, heel. Yeah, is that easier for you to pronounce? Use it. Yeah, wheel, yeah, like a wheel on a car. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Easier for me to say, maybe faster for me to say. I'll usually use that. You use that if that's comfortable for you. And they'll celebrate. Again, choose what works best for you. Okay? And now let's move on. Yeah? With number 12. Yeah, grammar fundamentals number 12. The other way we can talk about the future. So tomorrow I will study, but I can also use the subject, to be, again, yes, and going to. This is a very common way of doing it. And like I said in the introduction, we often do that because I don't know if it's easier. In Portuguese, it's much easier for me because I don't have to conjugate, right? But this form in English is less formal, right? The same as in Portuguese, eu vou ir is a little bit less formal than eu irei. So here I can say, I will study or I am going to study, right? Which do you prefer? You decide, right? You decide if you prefer. I am going to study. Awesome, right? So you are going to learn. She is going to speak better. He is going to improve. We are going to figure it out. Yeah? And they are going to celebrate. Yeah? The big difference there, less formal than using will. Okay? And number 13, we want to talk about even less formal. So to go even less formal, I can, of course, do the contraction of I am, I'm. And what's very common is rather than saying going to, we say gonna. I'm gonna. You're going to hear that a lot. I'm gonna study. She's gonna dance. He's gonna get better. We're gonna improve our English. They're gonna celebrate. Yeah? Can you hear that? Time is money. We're cutting it down even further. So what's the trick to know about that? If that's easy for you to say, use it. And also know that's very informal. So we use that when we're speaking in English and speaking less formally. So that's not something I write. And that's also not something I'm going to say in a formal meeting, for example. In a formal meeting, I'm not going to say, I'm going to do it. No. But to you, I'm going to say, I'm going to do it. Okay? So you can go ahead and use that I'm gonna when you want to say something informal that you're going to do in the future. Okay? All right. Let's move on to 14, where we have negatives and questions. Yeah? Here, we just do a little flipperoo, as we did in other things. So hopefully this makes sense. So for example, I'll say, I will study. Okay? And the question, will I study? Yeah? You will speak. Will you speak? Same with I'm going to study. Am I going to study? So we just do that flipperoo when it's a question. Yeah? Okay? And then one other important thing for us to know, you've probably heard the word won't. Where does that come from? Will not. So when we're talking about negatives, if you want to use the will, if you like to use the will, you're going to use will not. And we usually use that contraction of won't. So I will speak more slowly. I won't speak with you in Portuguese. I will give you everything I've got. I won't tell you that I know everything. I will work with you as much as possible. I won't tell you no. Yeah? I will, I won't, you will, you won't. Those are the questions. Those are the negatives. Okay? And the last thing, number 15, practice. It's so fundamental, so key in grammar fundamentals. Practice, 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 practice. Practice daily. So how can we practice the future? Talk about the future. Yeah? Of course, we can use the keywords like tomorrow, next week, next year, in 2 months, in 3 years, etc. There's a great way I'm going to give you to practice the future and also prime yourself, to teach yourself, to talk to yourself positively about the future. So what can we do? Day number 1, go ahead, get a piece of paper, your notebook, start writing what you will do in 1 year. What are you going to say? Where are you going to go? Do you want to do another one? Grab another piece of paper. In 3 years, where are you going to be? What are you going to do? Who are you going to talk with? If your English improves, if you improve 1% every single day, imagine where you're gonna be in 1 year. Imagine where you will be in 3 years. Write about that. Day number 2, read it out loud. Say that. Feel that. That's you if you keep doing it. So say out loud where you're going to be, what you're going to do, who you will be talking to, what you will be doing. And then day number 3, do that with other people you love. Wow, next year, where will your son be? Where will your daughter be? Where will your wife? Where will your husband? Where are your friends going to be? Where are your parents going to be? Where are the people that you really care about going to be? What are they going to be doing? What will they be eating? Etc. Yeah? Imagine. It's make-believe, but our mind doesn't know the difference between make-believe and reality. It really doesn't. So the more we tell ourselves, of course, we're make-believing, but we give ourselves extra confidence and extra power and momentum to move towards our goals when we speak positively to ourselves about the future. So it sure doesn't hurt. What a great way to practice. So the next day, after you've talked about yourself, after you've written about yourself, you've talked about yourself, you've written and you've talked about other people, day 5, why don't you talk about us? That doesn't hurt. Where will we be? What will we be doing in the future? This we can be whatever you want. Why don't you write about the Prepare community? We'd love to hear it. What will we be doing? What will we be studying? Where will we be going in a year, 3 years? And what will we be doing? Go ahead and write and say that. So practice, practice, practice. It's so key, so fundamental. And for sure, if you're practicing every day, you will be so much better next week. You are going to be so much better next month. And no doubt in a year, you're going to be exponentially In a year, you're going to be exponentially better. We all are going to be exponentially better in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. So take advantage, talk about the future, use it. Please write below, where will you be in a year? Where will you be in 3 years? What are you going to do? Share, ask questions, let me know how I can help and any questions that you have. Such a pleasure to talk with you today and always. And much light, much love. All of the very best this universe has to offer. You and everyone you love, and can't wait to see you soon. Ciao, ciao.